My name is Zachary Bennett, and I want to welcome you to the Omnism Spiritual Channel. I'm sitting here with Kaylee. We're hanging out in the garden. We're talking about life. Kaylee, we were talking before we started recording, man, about the global frequency of things and how you and I are anticipating a shift.
Yep. I think, it was just recently reported that, like, the Schumann resonance, which is the resonance of the Earth, right, has recently shifted. And, there's been a lot of big shifts happening, and no one's really talking about it, which I don't think that's super surprising, right? That's usually the case. But, like, NASA just reported that the core of the Earth stopped spinning, which, I was taught in high school that that's what, like, creates the balance of the Earth and all these different things, right? And then it started spinning the other way. So all these different things are happening. We have these different global alignments happening right now as we're talking, right? I don't know that we have a very good idea of, like, what a global shift would look like, because it seems like the last time that this happened was like 12,000 years ago. And so we're talking about, that's when supposedly, like, the Great Flood in the Bible happened, right? And that's been reported in, like, lots of ancient texts, not just the Bible, right?
True.
That's when the Anasazi Indians disappeared, right? We found their encampments with, like, stuff sitting around like they were using, and they just got up and ran away, right? They left their tools and stuff. And we don't know where they went, right? This is also the time that supposedly Atlantis fell and disappeared, right? But all these stories come from around the same time. And I think, what we're starting to learn is there's some kind of cyclical catastrophe that happens about every 12,000 years, and we're kind of coming up on it. And when that happens, humanity also kind of evolves. It has to, right? I think if you apply a certain amount of pressure to anything, it's going to either die or evolve, right? And I think that maybe, I don't know if you believe in God or some grand consciousness, that might just be the design of everything. Like a self-correcting system, that if humanity gets off its tracks so far and we don't join together and become like a human race, right?
That's my philosophy. I'd like to see world peace.
Yeah, I think only when we achieve at least global cohesiveness, we start treating each other as earthlings rather than, people of different countries and continents.
We'll talk about that. How do you think some of these structures and these organizations and these people in power can put aside their ego and come together?
I don't even know if we know what we're up against. I would say, like, and I don't even like saying conspiratorial, because it oftentimes, yesterday's conspiracy is tomorrow's truth, right? So, but I would say, on the most conspiratorial end of things, some people believe that at the very top of all the power structures and hierarchies is either some demonic entity or some alien entity, right? More time goes on, I wouldn't be surprised. Because it doesn't seem, we like to believe that, okay, if you go to a job and you have some corporate job, your boss, you can probably bet everything that you have, unless he's a psychopath, that he loves his kids, and he loves his family, and he loves his mom, right? And he wants the best for the next generation. Yeah. Now you go to his boss, and you both can probably bet the same thing. Now you keep going up the line. I don't know. I can't safely say that. I don't know. Does Bob Iger of Disney and, do these people live the same realities that we live?
They're talking the 1% have, 80% of all the wealth.
And at that point, man, let's be honest, like, the money situation is a fake system anyway.
Sure.
If you're the people printing the money, I don't think you're attached to the money the same way that we are.
If you were in that situation, and you were in the top 1%. And we were talking earlier about, starting projects in our own backyard, starting with home, starting a community.
What are they doing in their own backyard? They're building bunkers.
What would you like to see?
I think thinking about what I want to see may be a giant distraction from what needs to be, right? I think, here's my thing. Everybody always treats like the elites, right? We look at what they do with their money. They're either controlling something or protecting themselves in some way, right? They give a little away to charities and things, but at the levels of like Mark Zuckerberg, okay? When money is no option, you would think, yeah, they would be delivering a skateboard to every young kid, right? Like, that's
Sure.
what you and I would do with that money, right? Right? We take care of people. So everyone always assumes they're all psychopaths because of the way they operate. The only way that I could see them not being psychopaths is if they knew something we didn't. Like something was coming, some big event. Then yeah, oh, you're a smart person for building a bunker all of a sudden. You're not some greedy, disconnected asshole. Now here's the thing, okay, let's say we're in Boulder. Let's say Gross Reservoirs Dam. Let's say we knew somebody that worked there and that we were having a beer with them one day and they said, you know what, man, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but I got to, man. This dam is gonna break. I've been working there, I've been watching this crack open up bigger and bigger and bigger. I've been telling the higher ups and they seem to want it to happen. I can't understand what's happening, but I'm not supposed to talk about it because if we told everybody tomorrow, everything would go to shit, right?
Yeah.
We can't save all these people and relocate all these people in time. We found out about the problem way too late, okay? And by the time we could get our shit together, we're way past that point. So the best that we can do now is to keep our mouth shut, avoid the chaos, and we're allowed to tell our closest people. You can tell your mom, tell your friends, I've done the same. Tell them all to keep their mouth shut and to start buying a boat because water is coming into Boulder, right? Picture that on a bigger scale. If we knew there was some asteroid headed here, or some solar event was about to happen that would like fry all of our electronics. What I think, when you look back at the moon landings, the Apollo missions, one of the big things that they seemed to be studying was the surface of the moon and how it was affected by the sun. And you can go back and listen to the Apollo recordings and they're taking samples of the moon's surface. And what they're looking for is evidence of a solar micronova in the past, when the sun basically sneezed. It didn't burn out, but it sneezed and it fried everything, right? And there's evidence of that on the moon. And there's evidence of that on Earth. Now, if we knew that was going to happen again, what would you see play out? Take your emotions out of it, you would start seeing a bunch of underground infrastructure be built.
Yep.
You'd probably see necessary things like food and water disappear from the global marketplace and be called shortages, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I was in charge of keeping a population alive and there was a bunch of food out there, I would take a quarter of it, put it in storage and say, hey guys, we didn't have enough food this year. What are the chances that that's happening right now?
We have whistleblowers all the time. And we've seen in our culture recently a lot of scientists being...
Now think about, why is it that we're not seeing flying cars and robots around and everything? Look at what you see on social media and the news. People destroying stores and not obeying the law. Like, we're not an old enough society to deserve those things. I truly think you're going to see anti-gravity, advanced AI, robotics, all that's going to come out after a collapse. Because think about it, if you have robotic manufacturing, that's like the best thing to have after a collapse. When you don't have a workforce and you can suddenly just jump back into society full-fledged, keep the factories going.
Wow.
Think about all these things and it's like they might not be we might not be allowed to have the better toys because we're just not ready for it. And after we rebuild society into a new age, we might be ready for it, right? But I truly think some of the, it's almost like we've lived our entire lives trusting the captain of the ship to be at the wheel
Right.
and to think in our best interests, right?
Right.
For the first time in history, the captain can just get on his own boat, sail away, and leave us here to fend for ourselves.
True.
The top of the pyramid for this first time in think about kings and queens, right?
Yeah.
You get rid of all the peasants, the kings and queens have no power. This is the first time in history where somebody like Jeff Bezos could literally just separate from humanity, have a robotic workforce, everything he needs, live on his own without human law, right? We're talking about the first time in history where the top of the pyramid can just take off and leave the rest behind.
Right.
And that's the scary thing is like, you know, I don't think we're living on a level playing field where we find out about things the way we should. Information doesn't disseminate through the population the way it should. The algorithm controls all that shit, right? I think when you speak up, all these scientists disappearing, what are the common denominators? They're all working on like anti-gravitics or some kind of advanced craft, or are they dead? Are they gone? What would happen before a giant event? We would take the smartest people in the world, fake their deaths, and move them to a safe location. I mean, like...
I see it. I can believe that.
I think, a really great movie came out recently called Greenland. It's with the dude from 300, whatever his name is, I can't remember, but they actually had like the US government advise them on how something would go down. And the basic idea is there's going to be a super close flyby of an asteroid. And so everybody's getting telescopes and planning barbecues and all this, right? And it's not going to hit Earth. They're just getting ready to watch it. And that's what the media is telling everybody, right?
Yeah.
So this dude's at the liquor store getting ready for everything, and he gets a notice on his phone, almost like an Amber Alert. And it's like, you've been selected for safe housing. The asteroid's actually going to hit us. Go to this military base with your family, and we'll be waiting for you. And the whole movie is him realizing that not everybody got that notice. It was the doctors and the contractors and, the people that were useful to society.
Yeah.
They were pre-selected, and they got a notice that says, don't tell anybody, make your way to this military base. And the whole movie is getting all of the useful people in society out of America before it gets pelted by asteroids. And they all go to Greenland and survive in these bunkers that they had ready, right? And it's that to me is almost more hopeful than just thinking that like we've gone off the rails and I would almost like to think that we're going off the rails because that's the plan, not because we're just organically falling apart at the seams as society.
I do. You've gone down a rabbit hole not a lot of people are even comfortable with going down.
I mean, the scary thing is it's like, if you believe something, you can find stuff to confirm that bias, right? Anywhere. If you believe lizard people are running the world, you can find evidence that lizard people are running the world.
Right.
But when you look at ancient history, man, it's weird that like all the ancient people hid in caves, right?
This is true.
And if you're an army like invading someplace, a cave is a terrible place to hide, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's something you're hiding from something in the sky, I assume. And there's this really interesting kind of side rabbit hole. There's this so all the cave paintings we've found around the world, they're pretty similar. They show like animals and they show hunters with bows and stuff, but then they show like these weird spiral patterns and this thing called the squatting man. It's almost like a stick figure, and he's kind of squatting, and he has two spheres floating on each side of him. And we find this all around the world. For the longest time, we're like, what is that? Like, was it an ancient god? How is it that all these people were painting the same thing? Same with the swastika, right? That shows up in Native American art and European art and Viking art and everywhere, right? Africa. So this guy in Europe, his name's Anthony Peratt. He's a plasma physicist, okay? So he studies what plasma does under certain magnetic fields. And he was looking at these cave paintings and he was like, I recognize some of these crazy spiral shapes and stuff. He was like, I've created those in my lab. So he goes back and he takes those cave paintings and he was able to recreate them in his lab by basically shooting plasma through like a jet and then applying the Earth's magnetic field, the equivalent, to it. And it started forming all these crazy patterns. And his theory is that ancient people, so we had like a solar event, like a solar micronova.
Okay.
And they were just minding their own business. They looked up in the sky and they saw, picture like the northern lights except shapes and patterns.
Okay.
The stuff you see in like cymatics when they put sand on top of a speaker and it forms all that crazy sacred. Picture that in plasma in the sky.
Yo.
And if you're an ancient person, you don't understand any of this shit, dude, that's like a god, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And they think this might be where the dragon came from, like the Chinese dragon.
Okay.
Like we have no evidence of dragons yet. Everybody seemed to believe in dragons back in the day,
Agriculture.
right? So what's crazy is, if you were to see that shit in the sky as an ancient human, shortly afterwards, the radiation that would hit the planet would start killing off people and livestock and all that shit, right? And so if you saw that happening, you would retreat to the nearest cave, probably. That's when the burning sensation would stop, right? And then you'd stay there for however long it took for that to die down.
Right.
And if it was long enough, you would start painting that on the walls to tell people what you saw before you retreated to the caves.
Yeah.
And you might even be holding class down there teaching future generations. They might have been down there so long that they had kids and had to raise kids underground. Now here's what's wild. The Hopis, they said during the last Earth cataclysm, somebody called the Ant People came out of the ground, out of caves, and invited them to come live in underground cities, where that's how they say they lived through the last catastrophe. And then they came out of the caves and exited into the Grand Canyon. And we have all these stories, like in Turkey, we find these huge underground cities, right? Like, why were they living down there? It's like 12 stories deep in some cases, right? They had wells, they had livestock. What if that's what they were hiding from, right?
You think the elites are...
I think the elites are preparing for the next one, because I think that's why there's a huge push to have AI, because they know that we're going to have to replace a huge portion of the workforce.
Okay.
If we even lost 10% of the planet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about every major coastal city. If we have, according to the geology, if the sun does anything like that, volcanoes pop off, start seeing electrical discharges and lightning strikes. This might be the origin of like Zeus's thunderbolt. Dude,
I can see it.
Greek mythology describes like a thunderbolt that can take out a city, like a nuclear bomb. And we're like, what? Like, we've never even seen anything like that. In these sort of scenarios, you would see things like that. And there's geological evidence of giant lightning strikes in the remote past. We see it in Egypt. The city of Tanis looks like it was blown up by a nuclear bomb, but they didn't exist back then, so what did that? And I think it would make sense why we're so disillusioned with the elites right now. They're supposed to be running things. That's why they're in that position. We say, okay, we won't kill you with torches and pitchforks as long as you run things relatively well. You can be as greedy as you want, collect all the cars and mansions, do whatever you want, just don't mess our lives up. That's the balance. That's the social contract of the elites.
Right.
They're so out to lunch that we're like ready to string them up from trees. Okay? Why is that? They're smarter. They're not all dumb psychopaths. A lot of these people meditate. They're into like elevated consciousness. They're biohackers, right? These are smart people. Why are they so out to lunch? They're either the world is completely run by psychopaths and they all want to kill us, or they're preparing for something they can't tell us about.
Or they have told us about and nobody's listening.
That might be part of it. I'd like if I was in charge of like keeping everybody under wraps, and I came to you and I was like, listen, man, I know that you know everything and you're allowed to know everything. If you get on the phone and start calling your friends tomorrow, we're gonna kill you. You would still tell people. You would still get a few drinks in you and tell your best friend. You'd be like, dude, I'm just gonna hint at something. Like, start preparing for whatever. And then be like, conversation over. Because you would know, like, if I say anymore, they're listening, right? Or they're gonna kill me. Like, and I think that's what we may be seeing in Hollywood. We wonder why there's all this like secret speak in movies and shows that almost like predict what's happening in real life. And we're like, are movie producers just sitting down with like CIA agents? I think that probably happens, but I think a lot of people are in the know and probably just, they want to tell somebody so bad.
Yeah.
And that gives me a little bit of hope, because if it was all like, hey, everyone's gonna die, you wouldn't want to tell anybody that, dude. I wouldn't be itching to tell everybody they're gonna die. But if it was like, hey, the government's been like, all that tax money that just goes to wherever, and they say it's to weapons and new ships, but we never see it. And we're like, we still have potholes and stuff. Like, what? We give trillions of dollars to taxes, and where is it going?
Right. How's the debt going up?
If we found out tomorrow, governments around the world were like, hey guys, you're gonna be pissed, but we did this for your own well-being. We've been making these giant underground cities for the last decade, and we've been trying to build them in secret, because the second you people knew about it, it wasn't gonna get finished. We had to finish this. Now each city can hold 50,000 people, and we have 10 of them scattered across the United States. I hate to say it, but not all of you are getting an invite. If you're a doctor or a contractor or a builder, or you can lay concrete or sew someone up and write code, you probably have a ticket in. If you're living off the state, you're not doing anything, you run a teddy bear business, you're not getting invited. If I was in charge of, if I was paid an ungodly amount of money to try to make that decision and take my emotions out of it, that's probably the decision I'd make. I'd say we got to save as many useful people as we can, or we're gonna lose everybody.
That's a logical thought, and that would have to be done in order to show the greatest good to the greatest amount of humanity.
Think about the infighting that would happen though if you told people, like, hey, I'm in charge of like determining who gets to go in the bunker and who doesn't. And my job sucks, dude. I just sit there day after day, like on Tinder, just clicking on profiles like, yep, nope, yep, nope.
Wow.
That would suck, dude. And no one would want that job, and you would not want to be pinned, have other people know that you had that job. The whole thing would be difficult to just manage by itself and not lose hope, right? But if you were given those facts that you were like, hey, this is gonna happen whether you like it or not, and it's gonna fuck everything up so bad that if we don't start now sequestering food and seeds and computers and AI, and it's funny that all the things that we've had a shortage of in the last decade are all the things that you would fill bunkers with if you were preparing for it. I think back to, okay, COVID started, right? And everybody was so freaked out about COVID, they weren't really paying attention to the other things. But first we had a global pallet shortage, right? So shipping pallets were like impossible to get, all of a sudden, just overnight. And then all of a sudden we had 5-gallon bucket shortages. The things you would put on pallets. And then we had shipping container shortages. All of a sudden, for decades, we were able to run a global trade with all these shipping containers, and then overnight a bunch of them are gone. And all the people that manufacture them have like a year-long list of like, they're so backed up they're never going to get done. What happened to all that stuff?
Right.
Was food and seeds and ammunition. We had an ammunition shortage too. Nobody was shooting guns more than they did normally, but all of a sudden it was impossible to get AR-15 ammo or anything like that. Now call me crazy, but like if we were taking a bunch of that and putting it into cold storage, that's all the things you would see disappearing off the market.
Well, it's not crazy if the math adds up.
I mean, I could see buckets by themselves. Yeah, maybe that's a fluke, but when it's All the things fill the buckets with ammo, put them on pallets and put them in shipping containers and put them underground. All of a sudden there's a bunch of them missing off the marketplace. We had a microchip shortage. That's kind of something you would want a shitload of if the factories weren't cranking any more out, right?
Right, ideally, yeah.
So it's like, think of like everything you would need for 10 years if all the factories stopped overnight. You would stack all of those things.
You would. You definitely would. And
Now, what's
you would have it in secret. Now, do you think...
What's the best thing to do before you close your bunker doors and you've got all your shit? Now, I've talked to ex-military dudes that are like, I can't tell you any more than I have a job after the apocalypse. I've watched documentaries where this is how intelligence hires people too, believe it or not. Those shitty yard signs that say, hey, come to this work convention, and it's so bland and nondescript that you yourself would never go.
Right.
Intelligence people are trained to look for those signs, and when they show up, they learn that it's a CIA hiring event, right? And it's kind of code speak for, hey, we're having an intelligence thing and we're looking for good hackers and stuff, right? So those people know to look for those things. But I've watched these documentaries about, like, if you're ex-Delta Force or ex-high military, a lot of these guys are approached by a third-party person that says, hey, listen, we'll give you a retainer every single year, 100 grand, just to be on the list. Now, if something happens, the downfall of society, you and your family show up at this location, we will have housing, food, everything that you and your family need. Your job is to protect the VIP. And they have entire military forces already listed out and hired for when that happens, right? So I think if you were going to lock yourself away with your private military and all your robots and all your food and everything, how would you want to leave the state of the world? You'd probably want to create like a war between everybody on the outside, right? So they kill each other off. Like a race war, right? So get everybody racially fucking at each other's throats, open all the borders, invite everybody from everywhere to everywhere else, and mix the pot so much with very little time to assimilate, and just watch them start fighting. This is what's happening in every Western world, right? Turns out if you invite somebody from a completely different country with completely different values and religions and everything, and you just press them together in a box, they're gonna fight. Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't you want the people on the outside of your bunker to be at each other's throats, as disarmed and dumb and as unhealthy as possible? Because here's the way I look at it, man. If I was an elite right now, I'd be doing everything I could to get people to eat right, to love each other, to build communities, to be self-sufficient.
True.
I would make a law that says you have to have a garden. If you have space, you have to be growing food on it.
No grass at all.
Yeah, no fucking grass. We're done with golf courses. Like all that shit, right? If I was elite, I would be investing in the future because that's the best for me as well, right?
Yeah.
And everyone else. Like, it makes sense,
And your
right?
future generations and their offspring, and
Why would I be trying to push
wealth.
shit that makes people want to attack me with pitchforks and torches someday?
Right.
Unless that was my only option.
You saw it coming.
Like, it's either this or I'm with them. I'm living on the streets with these people and surviving in some post-apocalyptic madness, right? Or I have the money, I might as well just start fucking building a bunker and doing all this shit and not tell anybody. But the rest of us have gut instincts and we see that something's going on. And this is why we don't trust these fucking people.
There's no trust at all.
They're either psychopaths or they're hiding some giant secret from us.
That would make a global
Now it's hard,
shift.
I don't know what's scary, man. Is everybody running the world a fucking psychopath? Or are they all forced to keep an unfortunate secret? You know, like an inconvenient secret. That's a hard one to fucking balance, man. If you you can't, the more people you tell, the worse off it's going to be.
Well, could you imagine if they knew something was coming and they collectively, just dumped in their entire portfolios trying to build up civilization? It's like, yeah, we're going to go off now, but we're going to give you a little bit of hope and try to plant some seeds that You know, if a few of you make it and join together as communities, you can rebuild, and we're gonna educate you and give you the seeds to be prosperous and start a better world.
Think about this, dude. In the early, I think it was, or it was like 1890 something, we had the Carrington event, which was the last time the sun really gave off like a fucking burst, right? The only electronic thing we had was telegraph lines. And, you know, just electrical lines with a station here and there. When that shit happened, dude, it set the telegraph lines on fire.
Oh, wow.
And it killed some of the operators.
Oh, wow.
If they say if that happened today, everything, phones, camera, anything with a
Right.
microchip in it is fried, never to be turned on again.
Wow.
And
That would
then
end global existence.
airplanes would fall out of the sky,
Right there.
literally.
It'd be chaos.
It'd be chaos. And well, and here's the thing, the only things that it wouldn't affect are anything that has 6 feet of granite between it and the sun, which is every military base, right? And military hardware is designed to be, you know, because bombs give off the same kind of radiation and shit, right? EMPs and stuff. So like EMPs and sun events are pretty similar, and it would knock us back to Victorian times over fucking night, dude. The Amish would wake up and not even know anything happened. It'd be normal day as usual.
That's
But for the
interesting.
rest of us, it'd be fucking chaos, dude. If you're a social media influencer, that's your whole life. You've devoted your life to that, or coding, or anything, dude.
Yeah.
Electricians would be the most sought after people, because we'd be trying to get local networks set up of just anything.
Right.
Just some lights,
Right,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it
dude.
is.
But in the meantime, all the elites would be in fucking underground bunkers with all of their everything they need. And then
it's not far-fetched. You know, we know the sun emits solar rays and flares.
why did all the ancient cultures worship the sun? I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's like the most important thing in the sky, right? But
It's got the power,
it seems like,
life and death.
now here's the crazy, this is where it gets into the crazy science, and you can kind of look into this, but there's a lot of support behind this theory. So, you know, we have our planet spinning on its axis, right? And a lot of that spin and the balance is from what's called electromagnetic coupling within the Earth, okay? So if you picture the Earth as like a gobstopper with a bunch of layers, right?
I love that description, by the way.
Everything gets up to the crust, right? Which is what we're on, right? So picture the crust like the skin of an orange, and the inside of the Earth is the orange, right? It's actually free from the crust. Not complete, like perfectly, right? But it's not attached perfectly. And what's attaching it is electromagnetic pull. Okay?
Generator.
And it's crazy because the magnetics and the electromagnetics of the Earth are pretty complex. But when the sun does its fucking burp, right? Sends out all these charged particles, and that upsets that balance. And so this theory is that if you're on the equator right now and you're standing there, I think you're spinning 15,000 miles an hour. You don't notice it because you're on the surface, right? But if that were to slow down even a little bit, or speed up a little bit, or tick off rotation, everything not attached to the surface would keep moving. It's like if you're on a skateboard and you hit a crack, your body keeps going, the skateboard stops.
Momentum.
So picture what would happen with the oceans.
Ooh.
So if the oceans are in this balance moving with the
Wow.
Earth, and the
Yeah,
Earth
yeah.
slows down or ticks, or
Sure.
that rotation goes off, the oceans keep moving. And they would keep moving over land, which would cause a global flood.
Which is,
Any-
as you were saying earlier, documented in every culture around the world.
It would cause volcanoes to pop off and bury entire cities in mud fucking 30 meters deep, right? In all these cases, it's like giant thunderbolts, lava flows, mud volcanoes, and fucking flowing of water, right? Now look at what happened in Fukushima, right? When that giant fucking wave came into Japan, wrecked everything. But when it went back, it dragged it all back to the ocean. And you're looking at like a blank landscape. They say, like, why don't we have any crazy pyramids or anything in America? Why isn't the West Coast covered with like ancient shit like we find everywhere? If there was a big enough tsunami, and it came up the West Coast and just washed back in, there'd be nothing left, dude.
I like your philosophy.
And ancient people would come out on a blank landscape and be like, cool, let's move here.
This weather's great.
And dude, there's geological evidence that when you stand on the Rocky Mountains and you look west and you're looking out over Utah and Nevada and all that, what are you looking at? You're looking at a giant lake bed. But we were taught that that happened millions of years ago.
Yeah.
25 million years ago, dinosaurs were roaming around and this was a lake bed. Modern geology is starting to accept that that might have been 12,000 years ago. You saw ocean water crash up against the Rocky Mountains and go back to the ocean.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because I do, Omnism is the belief in all religions and cultures and traditions.
They all seem to share common denominators, which is like 12,000 years ago, everything reset. And that's when they say like the Hindus believe that, we were living with, what they considered gods. Probably aliens, I'm guessing. I don't know. They describe them as aliens. But we were living with the gods in flesh and blood, right? They had floating cities and all this crazy shit. And then everything hit the fan and they left. And they said, we're coming back. Hopi said the same thing. Their gods landed here in giant metal birds. And then they took off when everything went to shit, but they were like, we're coming back, don't worry. And I think that's the basis for a lot of religions, man. It's like, hey, we're waiting for him to come back.
I agree. I do. I agree.
And dude, if shit hit the fan and we had the ability to peace out, we would.
We would.
We tell everybody else like, yo, we'll come back, man, but we gotta go.
Right.
Yeah, I think that might have happened in mass, man, in Egypt, in India, and all these places that seem to worship like some. And then let's be honest, dude. The way things should be is like the oldest shit that we can find around the planet should be the shittiest. That would make sense. Like we started as like cave people and we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were just putting rocks together. Right. And then over thousands of years, we built these crazy megalithic. It's the opposite. The oldest stuff is built out of the biggest, most difficult, like they were just showing off. And here's the crazy thing. If you knew something like that was gonna come, wouldn't you build things out of giant stone? It's the only thing that can't be destroyed by what we were talking about.
True.
What if like the pyramids were surrounded by glass buildings and all sorts of stuff made out of wood, modern kind of, and in modern times we build courthouses out of marble and stone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If fucking Boulder got leveled tomorrow, you'd probably find the courthouse and a few fucking big stone things laying around.
Not wrong.
So what if Egypt was like, where they had glass and electronics and light bulbs and all that kind of shit? And after something like that, dude, the only thing that's gonna be left is some big fucking triangle that can't be knocked over, right?
Yeah, it's waterproof.
And then you look at everything else, it's all buried in fucking sand, right? Easter Island, man. The longest time we thought those were just heads sticking out of the ground. They finally dug down and they found out, no, 2/3 of the body is buried. What buried it?
That would be a wave coming back and forth, bringing the sediment.
Seems like we're seeing evidence everywhere we look of like, oh fuck, everything went to shit. People went underground, hid out for a while, came back out.
Right. And I was looking at a statistical map, and I looked during the Cold War times, and they were saying most people thought, any day would be their last of nuclear. Nuclear fallout and war has actually come down on the list of probable causes that would end humanity.
We have cleaner bombs now, right? So like we have tactical nukes that can take out like a city block and not destroy the city, right?
Right. Natural disaster and floods and solar rays, they are high on that list though. Asteroid strikes.
I'd say higher than, and the scary thing is like, let's be honest, man, like if you and I were elites retreating to our bunkers and we had our kids around us and our pets, everything's great for us.
Right.
After a few drinks, we'd have to have a conversation like, dude, should we just nuke the surface? Like these people are gonna gang up eventually and get front end loaders and start trying to dig us out of our bunkers, right?
Right.
It makes you wonder why we have enough nuclear weapons to like sterilize the surface.
Several times over.
Because it's like, dude, when would that actually be an advantage to the elites? I'd say when they have no other option and they need to like just make sure nobody's at the front door.
Ever again.
That's what we need to worry about, man, is like shit hits the fan, the elites disappear overnight, and we're like, where the fuck is everybody? And they're all underground and we're not hearing anything.
Right.
And then shit starts to happen, and then it happens, and we all fight through it and survive it. And then we all start having town hall meetings where we're like, where's fucking Mark Zuckerberg right now? And they'd be like, I heard he's on an island in Hawaii. Cool. Who has a boat that can get us there? Some guy's like, I got a big ass boat. And we're like, cool, bring all your guns and your cutting torches and a jackhammer. And we'd be doing that with military bases too, man. If elites hid themselves into that shit, all these good old boys with construction equipment would start digging their way into that shit. Now, this is why I think they say we have some underground tunnel network in the United States that connects all the military bases to DIA and everything else.
Yeah.
I think that's why, man, because if fucking we all started digging into one part of the anthill, all the ants just move to a different part and seal that up. And then they'll nuke us. Right? And that's how I see that happening. Like, you get 100,000 people together and it's like Burning Man, but our goal is to get into this bunker and kill these motherfuckers that ruined our lives, right?
Yeah.
And then the second we almost get to them, some fucking orbital strike hits us and they seal off that whole portion of the map. And all the elites are like, all right, take the train route around that shit, around the giant crater.
Right, yeah.
It'll be like some out of Resident Evil, dude, where like they just fucking level a lab when they're done with it. Fuck everybody. Leave a giant crater.
Right.
When there's nobody's gonna fight you when there's no global superpowers to fight against, right? It's everybody for themselves. I think at that point, that's when I think what would unify elites all over the world besides something like that? Like life or death, like your family's life and death, everyone you love, either living or dying. That would keep a secret.
Can we switch gears here and try to imagine the opposite end of that?
What it would be like, well, like I think it would be the best thing that ever happened because it would make us honest again. We would learn humanity again. We would go back to what it is to be human. Put your feet in the dirt and know your neighbors and raise each other's kids. It would, I truly think that is the line in the sand spiritually, is either you have no faith and you dig a hole and hide in it like a fucking lizard.
Wow.
Or you accept your humanity. Hey, here's the other thing. What do we keep finding when we dig up shit? I would argue rich people's bunkers. Bunch of skeletons dressed in gold, clutching gold with their families. We call it, oh, they were preparing for the afterlife. Not in every situation. In mummies, yeah. But we find a lot of fucking bunkers with just skeletons and all their riches.
Right.
That might have started with homie with his family thinking he got the big up on everybody else, right? And hey, it turns out it was the opposite. You just dug your own grave.
And you're truly thinking that, you know, after these floods happened around the world, that's where these religions started developing and coming.
You know what's funny too? I think, so, you know, we were talking about the spin of the earth, right? You can look all this stuff up online. There's a lot of great videos that describe the mechanics of all this, but on any sort of, you know, spinning anything, there's two axle points, right? The 2 points, like if you're standing on a spinning tire, unless you're standing dead in the center, you're flinging off, right? There's 2 points on the planet that did the best during these time periods, right? And it was the center of the Congo and right where we are right now. The ancient stomping grounds of the Anasazi Indians, right? Even though they kind of disappeared, it would seem that now, what do we just find out recently? That a shitload of us can be genetically derived to like a handful of females from the Congo.
Wow.
So it goes to show, and who survived all the shit? The people around to tell about it. The Native Americans, all these tribal people, they didn't retreat to they didn't all retreat to caves, right? Yeah. A lot of them just lived on the surface. I think, I think it's, when you think that you got one up on your fellow man, that's when you fucked yourself.
And this puts you in a perspective of community, though.
I think it's necessary. I think it's a normal cycle. Here's the thing, okay? Like, we don't deserve to leave this planet and to become a multi-planet species until we can evolve past our bullshit. So, every time midnight rolls around, if you don't got, it's like we're all at the club, and the club's closing at midnight. And when midnight rolls around, if you don't have all your friends together, then everybody's going home separate. Mm-hmm. And if we can all fucking get ourselves together by the time it hits midnight one of these times, we'll live through it. as a single species, and then we'll come out the other side not having to pick up all the pieces.
Right.
So if we really applied ourselves to like, yo, we're designing underground cities for everybody,
Right.
and it's going to be comfortable. This isn't, we're going into a new era. It was tough. Now think about it. I mean, dude, parents make you fucking eat your vegetables, right? They make you clean your room. When you're having to do those things, they seem evil, don't they? Why would you make me pick up my room,
I love
right?
that. Yeah.
But
That
it's for
brings
your
us back to
greater
the
good,
question,
right?
You want the global elite to spend their, 80% of their wealth on a global community.
That might be what's happening now, and they can't tell us. Now, that's the best case scenario is like, dude, they're doing the parent thing where they're like, listen, I'm making you save $1 a day, and even though you hate me, in 10 years, you're gonna be rich. So that might be kind of what's happening in society where they're like, listen, we're preparing for some, and if we tell you all, you're gonna start infighting, there's gonna be religious jihads and all this crazy shit. But you might, and from what I understand, listening to documentaries from people that actually build underground cities and stuff for a job, they're like, dude, the technology we have nowadays, they're like, it's like Vegas underground. Everything you can imagine. Like, I don't think it's for all of us though. I think that's gonna be an uncomfortable truth that we all have to accept is like, there's parts of Africa that have been in a war state for as long as they've existed. I don't know that we can bring those people into a bunker with other people. After generations of like chaos, some people are just not, I don't know, man. It's gonna be hard to like, but I do think whoever's left on the surface, they're gonna live a life worth living.
I love that. Kaylee,
we
I
have
appreciated
to.
having you on the show, brother.
Thank you, man.
And,
I appreciate being on
I always
it.
try to give a peace sign to the camera just to remind people world peace is achievable.
Peace is always achievable. And sometimes it's, we have to get through some shit to get there. You know? I think that's something we need to gain back, especially as men. We need to realize that like not everything worth doing is easy. It comes with trouble, and sometimes that trouble is worth it, right?
That was good. I think that's it.